All right, we are back on the Visionary Mindset podcast. This is episode 14, and today we are here with Alexis Papachristos with Brand New You and Neil Conlon with Press Forward. So thanks for coming on the podcast today, guys, and we're excited to learn more about your journey and your story and how you guys got together and a little bit about your business and what's going on. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Alexis Papachristos. I own a company called Brand New You. It is a personal branding and social media agency. And I just launched earlier this year. I come from a background in real estate and business development and really honed in my craft on the creative side of building personal brands. And so I decided to just go for it. And so here I am. And then I met this guy last year.
Here we are. I've got this kind of sorted journey. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Neil Conlon, and I'm very, very grateful that a couple of years ago, I got to this interesting place in my professional career where I realized I like to provide safety and security for others more than anything else. It's something I didn't have when I was younger, and I've kind of turned my pain into a passion throughout my life. And I do that in a multitude of different ways. I do it digitally in a bunch of different ways through cybersecurity companies and stuff like that. Mindset wise, because when we feel mentally safe, we feel we got resources. So I do that in coaching and executive leadership training and workshops and some speaking stuff. And then also doing it in physical context through a bunch of different events and stuff like that as well.
You're a speaker, right?
Definitely do a bunch of speaking and coaching for sure.
Yeah. So how did you guys get connected?
Yeah. So it was actually in 2021, he shared a story of how he built his brand Press Forward, and he was launching sweatshirts. And I was like, oh, this is a super cool story. I'll support by a sweatshirt. And his main focus was men's coaching at that time. And so I had sent over a few referrals of people I met and locally who I knew. And then long story short, fast forward, we ended up in Dallas together last year in November. And he was the only person who I knew was going to that event. And I was like, hey, do you want to meet? And he ended up hosting a happy hour and was like, come on down. And so we ended up hanging out every single night. And then after the event, he was talking about his coaching business and how he needed systems. And so I developed a whole back-end system for his coaching business. And so we just started talking through that. And then he was like, when am I flying you to New York? And I was like, oh, this is a thing. So it kind of morphed. It was not intentional. And I laugh every day because I'm like, did you ever think you'd fall in love with me?
Nope. And yet here we are.
And that you were working at Keller Williams at the time?
Yeah, I was working at Keller Williams, or I had just left Keller Williams at the time. Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit more about your background in real estate.
Yeah. So I started in real estate in 2016 in San Diego. I was an escrow rep for a private escrow company. And then I moved to Lodi, California in 2018 and started at First American Title in 2019 and quickly learned how to build a business during COVID, which was through building a personal brand and through social media and having access to so many people through the lens of a camera. And that my influence and my personal brand led me to the opportunity to run Keller Williams Roseville for a couple of years. And last year I had the aha of I'm teaching everyone else on how to build their business and their dream life and what does that look like, and really had the realization of, am I going after what I really want? And so the answer to that question was no. And so I quit my job and with no backup plan. And then 6 months later, I launched my business.
That's how it starts.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's been the biggest challenge for both of you guys in business, and how have you guys overcome that?
The biggest challenge for me has honestly been, this is my baby and this is my business. It's my own. So I get to create my own rules and I get to create my own boundaries. And it's typically, I have a set of rules to follow. I have systems and I'm creating everything from scratch. And being a creative person, you can oftentimes go down bunny trails. And so it's really just refocusing. And I'm so grateful that I have Neil with me all the time because he's great at refocusing my energy and back to what the original plan was, or what my focus is on a certain campaign, or just there to cheer me on, really. Just because everything, it's you against you. And typically if you're working for someone else or you have a partner, you have someone else's standards to live up to. But this one, you're creating your own ball game. And so, yeah.
I think for me, the hardest thing for me is when I first got out of the military, I had about 10 years in corporate America working for big billion-dollar businesses at a very large scale in the shadow of big-time producers. And so I learned a lot of the things that I think entrepreneurs have to learn the hard way by vicariously watching mega producer people fail, mega producer people do deals that go sideways, getting let down by employees, all the kind of hard parts about it. I had really good mentorship for 8 or 10 years. I think that's why the coaching thing is so appealing to me, because it's a path of least resistance is what it is. And now I look at it like with everything going on in the world, there's so many people that could focus on the negatives, inflation, the economy, politics, all these things. But there's never been so much opportunity to pay attention to different revenue models to make businesses, different industries to get into, categories. And for me, the biggest challenge really is there's so many cool ways to be making money now. It's not to disrespect anybody who's an accountant or a lawyer, or there's lots of these roles that you have to go to school for decades. You have to do your time and get good at it. And then eventually you'd make a lot of money. Now you look at YouTubers and kids on Twitch and launching t-shirts and brands and all these different things, literally from their phone with a camera. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Well, and people think the market is saturated with, coaches and people trying to, teach about what they've done. And really it's this coaching business it's a huge opportunity for, I don't know the exact numbers, but right. For the next few years, there's a huge opportunity. And yeah, media's,
No, well, you're spot on though. Alexis and I met through the Tony Robbins community. We're huge, advocates, allies. I've been to over a dozen events in multiple different ways. And yet you'd think that everyone's got to know who Tony Robbins is. Yet I almost bi-weekly will mention Tony Robbins on a podcast or even on my social media, and someone will be like, I don't know who you're talking about. And this is a person who's got a huge, massive following out in the space. And I even get people pretty regularly who will come across my social media profile or something like that, and they'll be like, what do you coach? Sports? Football? And yet in the same vein, that just happened to me a couple of days ago, somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn, a senior executive at a big $500 million a year company. He filled out the form on my LinkedIn profile that offers my coaching services, filled it out perfectly. I got on a phone call with him. We spoke for 12 minutes because I watch stuff like that when I talk to people. I want to know how long my sales process goes. And he literally goes, Neil, stop. Just tell me how much it costs. I'm in. And so yet, there's this spectrum of saturation that goes on in this space where some people are ready to go and know the value of what you're doing. And yet some people are like, I don't know what that even is. And I think that goes for all the modalities of it: cold plunging, masterminding, workshops, all these personal development kind of things. You think because you click on them all day long that everybody's seeing what your feed is seeing in the algorithms. Yeah. But it turns out that someone else, we prove this to each other all the time. She'll be scrolling and she'll be like, babe, come here, look at this thing. And she'll just watch that thing and then scroll. And then I'll be like, our feeds are so different.
That was funny. That's the same thing with me and my brother. I'm like, your feed is way different than mine, bro. It's
I have puppies and love stories.
His is all humor and random jokes, and then mine's business, and it's so funny.
And I just mentioned that because you don't realize how that alters how you engage with people. Right. It alters your perspective of what's going on in the world every single day. Yeah. Right. So that's where the focus part becomes so important too.
So there's a lot of things that people are telling you, oh, try this, try this, try this. What have you seen over the years? Where should people start? Because it's cold plunging or waking up early or, doing all these things. What do you think has the most impact for someone to start with?
Yeah, no, I really like this question. The place that's going to have the most impact is, and the place that people struggle with the most is they don't know how to create a goal. And if you don't have a specific goal that's measurable and actionable, then how could you possibly build a map? How could you build the system? How could you build the vehicle? How could you do all these pieces of it? And it's just so counterintuitive of how our society is built. Our society is built for you to get a certain kind of job and then do that job over and over and over again and have just the right amount of uncertainty that you can feel like you have control over it, right? Something breaks, you fix it, you feel good about yourself. Something doesn't go as planned, you come up with plan B, you feel good about yourself because you did it. But the idea of going like, I'm going to create a business or a lifestyle by design is what I preach about. The lifestyle is going to be like this, and then that's how it's going to be. I'm going to work to that point, and I'm going to build a map to get there, the systems that I need to get there, reverse engineer backwards. And I can't believe the amount of people that I start coaching that are running $600, $700, $2, $3 million businesses that don't have a goal in sight. And so if you wanted to run a $100,000 a year business, or you wanted to run a $3 million a year business, the map and the systems that you have to put in place to get there are so vastly different. And some people choose to go, I don't know, I just want to sell cookies, or I want to sell sweatshirts, or I want to do this kind of service thing. And it's really tough because people insist on learning the hard way a lot of times instead of getting like real clear on like what the outcome is they want to get, and then really going after that, because that's going to go after your ego at the end of the day, because you have to be in this constant like self-inquiry phase of like, what did I do wrong, or how did I mess that up in that point? And that's one of the things like in our relationship, we ask each other probably 3 or 4 times a day. One of us is going to be like, I messed this thing up. I didn't do it the way that I wanted to. This didn't go the way I planned. And literally the question that we ask ourselves, how do you want me to show up right now? Do you want me to be your partner? Do you want me to coach you? Or do you want me to tell you what you should have done? And literally I'll be like, I do not need to be coached right now. And she's like, got it. Come in for a hug.
It's wild when you're like in the space together, like when you have this similar interests, similar backgrounds, and like I coached people in the past and I coach people currently in my business, and he's been coaching people for years. It's hard not to like solve other people's, for me at least, it's hard to not solve people's problems when you see it. And it's made me be more intentional about the questions that I've asked to like pause in my personal relationships of like, how do you need me to show up versus me just being self-serving, like, oh, I can fix this for you, I can do it. He's like, I don't want that. I just want a like supportive partner right now. I'm like, okay, here's a hug, or let's go grab a drink and like walk it off, versus like, oh, your reel should have looked like this, or your email should have said something like that, like instead of critiquing. So it's been really cool to apply the knowledge that we've learned out in the personal development space to our relationship, which then in turn helps our business. It's just like all immersed in one.
Well, and a lot of people go into the space and want to help people based on the failures and the triumphs that they've had. So is there anything that you guys specifically want to share from your guys' background that maybe has, impacted where you are now?
Well, on my end, my journey to coaching is kind of funny because, and I'll get real raw and I'm okay with it, but I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be real raw for this piece of it because I think it's so important. I came out of the Marine Corps, served a bunch of years in the Marine Corps, went into the corporate world, did a bunch of really great corporate world stuff, didn't serve me to the point where I wanted to get to, jumped into the startup technology space, built a couple companies, sold a couple companies, all great things, and then was running sales for a cybersecurity company up until, or running sales and into summer of 2019, and on paper had everything, traveling around the world, the black card, we'd raised $100 million in this company, we're crushing it, the company's getting ready to go public on the stock exchange, and I was standing or hosting an event at the Lowe's Hotel in South Beach in Miami, and I was staying in the presidential suite of the hotel, so 3,000 square foot room and had just sent everybody home after we were partying all night long, drank half a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle, and kicked off my shoes because my shoes were like $400 shoes. I didn't want to mess up my shoes. And I climbed up on top of the balcony and almost jumped off. And I was past ideation, past just thinking about it. And the only reason why I didn't do it is because it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark out. And this little old, like 75-year-old Cuban janitor just starts, for some reason, brushing the old school broom where you can hear it, that like straw across the ground. And I could hear it. And I was like, this is like a divine intervention for me, man. Like the last thing I want to do is ruin that guy's life, like, and have him have to clean up after me. But I got down after that and was like, just really had to like take real inventory with myself and be like, on paper, this is great. Like on paper, people would kill for the lifestyle that I had built for myself. But internally, there was just a whole bunch of noise and clutter that I just built up over the years. And I got a coach. I fired that first coach because I was like, that coach is an idiot. I got a second coach, fired that coach. And the third coach just really listened to me. And there was something about that third coach that literally just certain phrases would just land and land and land and land with me. And that was like the first time that coaching actually made sense to me. And then when we sold that company, I was like, I think I want to help people in the same way that helped me. Yeah. And a lot of people will say, you know, that you have to niche down in coaching. You have to niche down. I think there's a time and a place to become a real estate coach or to become a social media coach or a relationship coach. There's good marketing aspects to that. But the way that I see things and the way that I add the most value to helping people really comes in the fact of, I think there's only two types of coaching. There's business coaching and there's mindset coaching. Business coaching is, I'm going to teach you how to do profit and loss statements. I'm going to give you a sales system, give you an operational system that you can take it and go do. And mindset work is really about like whatever got you here that's not working clearly because you're inquiring on how you can get past it needs to change, which means you need to now change your mindset and advance it forward. And you can't do one or the other. You're just going to end up fumbling the balance of that if you're only doing one and not doing the other, because it's just a matter of time of prolonging that. But that's how I got here.
Do you have anything?
I think going back to what he was saying like a few minutes ago about knowing exactly what you want, like I don't want to say failure, my downturn, but where I like picked my head up was last year. I went through a divorce last year and I ended up quitting my dream job. And that's because I noticed a lot of I'm a huge journaler. I love to write everything down. And when I was writing my stuff down, my life was not lining up with what I was saying, what I wanted. And so my internal talk track, it was what you're not changing, you're choosing. So I'm choosing a life currently that I don't want, if this is what I'm saying on paper that I do want. And how much longer are you going to be willing to live like that? Which is a really hard question because on the outside, everything seems perfect. But once again, internal alignment is like not right. And making the hardest decisions to leave a partner of 8 years and leave a dream job where you're leading 300 plus people and a leadership team of 12 people. It's not easy to say, I'm going to go be selfish now and go figure out who I am, but it's the biggest gift I've been able to give myself. And what's wild through that is like, as I continue to journal and process leaving, I guess, that life and building a brand new you, is like in writing what I do want, it is I'm now living out what's on paper. And so being super clear and intentional about knowing what you want and using that as a filter and not just daydreaming about a life we want. Because I think a lot of people out there have dreams, have goals. Their relationship might not be ideal. Their jobs might not be ideal. And it's really hard to look in the mirror and say, I'm not happy with this and how do I change it? Like, it's not easy. For months, I think I took 6 months and did nothing. Everyone's like, what are you doing? You're just like walking your dogs and journaling. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like processing the emotions of the life that I had and the identity that I had, because it didn't feel like me anymore. And a lot of people won't do that. I didn't have income for 6 months. What do you do then? Like, thankfully I had savings. I figured it out. And it's scary and it's uncertain, but to go ahead and give yourself that time to be able to have everything that you do want, which is my own business that I'm doing on my own. It's hard, it's scary, but it's fulfilling. Having my partner, like when we first met, like the first question I think he asked was like, what are your values? And I'm like, oh, they're on my notes. Like, here you go on my phone. Right. Yes. Do you want my personal ones, my relationship ones, or my work ones? And I like forwarded them to him. I had like my ideal relationship in my journal and I like screenshot it, sent it to him. Like, here you go. And it's so funny because when we first started dating, he's like, you realize you wrote me out on paper. And I'm like, oh yeah, I manifested you for sure, or whatever you want to call it. But it's going back to being crystal clear on what you want and are your actions every single day. I think lining up with that. And if they're not, then you have to make some really hard choices. And like last year was a rocker of a year, but I'm so happy that I went through it all.
A lot of people prolong, being stuck in their current situation or job position and just prolong it. And, you just got to make that jump.
Yeah. And it's just listening to your heart and into your head of like, who are you making happy? Are you living to please other people because other people have opinions on what you think you should be doing? Or is it like, if I'm going to be so authentic to myself that I really have to live my life on my terms with no regret? Because my question was, if I'm 50 and I haven't done anything, then how do I feel? And then going to those negative emotions, I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to do another 15 years like this.
So that kind of plays into media a little bit where people expect you to be a certain way. How are you with your new business and, just media in general? What are you advising people to, show up online authentically where they're not doing things just to please other people or just to do something to show up? Like, how do you advise them?
I'm fully be your authentic and share what's going on. I have been told, it was funny. In 1 week, I had someone tell me, your life seems perfect. Like we all want it, to, oh my gosh, I can't believe you hid everything with your divorce. I feel like you were lying to us. And then someone else saying you're too vulnerable. Like this is what's going on. I'm like, that is so funny. I had 3 separate perspectives in the same week. And I'm not hiding anything. I'm not a person when I'm like sobbing and crying to put a phone in front of my face because I want to feel my emotions. But share the journey, share your hardships. A couple years ago in 2021, I lost my father. And for 3 years, I shared the struggle of that. It was not easy. And people appreciated the fact that I let them into my world. So I don't think everyone should just share rainbows and butterflies. I do feel when you do share hardships is to share them while you're out of it, because I never want to share from an open wound, because say he and I get in a fight and then I go online and then we end up getting back together. Like I didn't get to fully express or feel my emotions. And then I'm sharing with people what I felt with a burst of an emotion that might not be true. So I like to tell people, like, express the hard thing, express when you're on the other side of it, and use it as a teaching lesson, because you're probably going to have a happy ending from the adversity, through the challenges, through whatever negative thing that you're going through, but use it as a journey and as a story to educate your audience. And that's what I'm really about. I love storytelling because I think that's how people connect. I think that's how people learn. And yeah, my thing is stay true to yourself, but never share while you're in the middle of it. If you're angry, if you're sad, because you might not feel that way when you're on the other side of it.
So, how important and how has it played a role, high quality content showing up online for both your guys' businesses? Like today, how important is it in your marketing efforts and what you guys are doing?
Yeah. What's interesting about what Alexis just said is that whole piece for me is extremely different. One of the things about our relationship is we are extremely different. We are so alike in our morals, values, and beliefs, but we're so different in how we execute on those things. That piece about, not sharing a wound or anything, like I come from a Marine Corps background where the phrase is embrace the suck, talk about how much it sucks, and be good and healthy. Like you lost your job. Good. Your wife cheated on you. Good. Because there's this feeling or this ethos of it's only going to get better. And the only reason why you're able to move through that is because the dead weight has now been removed from you, which comes across very, very differently in our social media. And considering, Alexis is building brands for people and personal brand, people are extremely attracted to her thoroughness and her brand. And it comes across so clear. She's mastered it. That's why she's so good at it. And that's why others get drawn into it. And it's ironic because even with, like she said, she saw my Tony Robbins post in 2021 when I was launching my brand Press Forward, which was built for me by a branding agency. And I went through this big, weird evolution with them where they take you through this long brand building story. And then they created the Press Forward. And when I would share it with people in my network, I was like in this shock and awe, like this big, huge, stress had been taken off my shoulders because I could now articulate kind of who I was and why people should work with me. And every single person I shared was like, yeah, that's who you are, Neil. No surprises there. But I could do it because of my personal brand. And I think that we're all in on social media in so many different ways. We're doing all the platforms and different forms of them and long form to short form content. And it really is, even from what I mentioned at the beginning of the recording, like I get cold, organic leads to come in that say, I've been watching your social media for a long time and I'd like to work with you. Like that's the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah. People don't realize like how many people are actually watching. I just had a comment on a recent podcast that we did and I had a interview with a guy that was doing crypto and he said, hey, this doesn't pertain to this video, but I just wanted to reach out and let you know that, your discussion changed my life. He's like, I'm on the verge of quitting my full-time job and, doing this next venture. And so, I was like, that is so random. You don't realize like how many people are watching behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest and hardest part about all of that. And I think it rings in my head because of a conversation that I had with Gary Vaynerchuk a long time ago. And he always was saying at that point, there's only two types of people on social media, those who produce content and those who consume it. And the consumers are really your customers, but they're not going to like you. They're not going to comment. They're just going to be innocent scrollers. And that's why you have to be so clear in your messaging that if you keep on tapping on them, eventually you're going to trigger the conversation. But that conversation will come in the form of a new client. It's not going to come in the form of a like, a follow, a comment, or whatever.
Yeah. Can you guys share a memorable experience in your guys' business?
I mean, I feel like my whole first few months, I sold out my first offer. I think that was super exciting. But the most exciting piece was I've been doing social media management for one of my real estate clients for 3 months now. And she just called me and told me she got her first $1 million referral from it. And I was so excited for her because the other agent who called her said, I typically use someone else in your market area, but it's because how you show up on social media is why I picked you, how you're educating, how you're telling your stories. And she doesn't have a huge following. And that's like the piece that people, I feel, always go to is like, I need 10,000 followers. I need all of this. And it's the consistency. It's the showing up of who you are. And it's the clarity of what you're doing day in and day out. And so she called me, we were like on Zoom, like screaming. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like you just paid for me for a couple years actually. And he texts me, he's like, whatever you're doing down there, like film it because this needs to go online. And so we were celebrating that. And for her, she was just thrilled at the fact that other people are witnessing what's going on in her brand and they're responding to it. But she was like, I don't know who this person is. I have never met him before in my life, but he went down my Instagram, he went down my Google, he went down my Facebook. and it got business for me. And I'm like, that's the whole point. And with her, going back to your high quality media, we have some professional photos. I do lifestyle photography and branding photography too. And she sent me some of her previous photos and media that she's put together before. And so I mix that in with like real life. So I think it's a hefty mix to showcase that I am a professional, but yeah, I am an authentic person. So that was the biggest, like, when was $1 million referral.
I'm going to share two. The first easy one is, people will question whether Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, which one works and which one doesn't. And some people will have their favorite ones. But I got a cold lead off of Instagram 2.5 years ago that then turned into, my first Fortune 500 executive coaching engagement. And it was literally from just a rando person commenting on a thing and was like, let's hop on a phone call. And I thought it was like a one-on-one coaching call. Sure. And they were like, no, I want to bring you into my work, which is a $800 million a year company. And we want you to speak do a keynote at our conference. And then that turned into an executive coaching engagement. And you would never think that those two things would intersect. Yeah. That's the quick, easy one. The one I think that people that are listening will be interested in is in 2009, I posted a video on social media because I had read Gary Vaynerchuk's Hook, Jab, which then led me to meeting him and spending some time with him. He then sent me Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek book when Tim wrote his book, which then led me down the path of personal development, which then got me a ticket to my first Inc. 5000 conference, which then inspired me to start my own company, which then, when I started that company, I got to go to the Inc. 5000 conference again, and I met, and when they were starting out, the Gary Vee and Grant Cardone and all these people that were nowhere near where they are right now, but that inspired me to keep on going, which then led me to Tony Robbins, which then led me to this woman. And it's all because of social media. Yeah. It's all 100% tied into that fact that I'm in this amazing relationship, this many years later from social media, all because I kept on going and saw I call digital breadcrumbs online. You got to see where they're kind of leading you to. And if you do them very, very intentionally, you will get everything that you want off of social media, and you can avoid all the noise.
Know where the opportunities are, right, and avoid people trying to take advantage of you.
For sure, right? I mean, along those digital breadcrumbs, there's a landmine field of other stuff.
What are some key factors that attribute to your success over the years?
Key factors is always being open to learning. He will tell you that I'm always on a new podcast. I'm always on a new webinar. I'm always on a new conference, and just absorbing new information to help find the answer or find the map to where I want to go. That's one thing. Also, find people who have done the thing before you. Get in proximity with people who are like-minded, who are where you want to be in 5-10 years from now. I think that is key. I joke with him, I feel like I have manifested my mentors in life. I'll see someone and be like, I don't know why, but I need to be in their world. And I will somehow figure out how to be best friends with them. And that's one of my gifts. And I think that's really key, is just finding the people who you aspire to be like and get into relationship with them, because at some point in time, they're going to help you and you're going to help them. That's the biggest thing for me, is learning and find people who've been there before you.
I think the quick three for me are, I've adopted this modality of business happens at the speed of trust. 100%. If you can understand how important trust is to business building, and the symptoms that need to happen in order for that to happen, you can move a lot faster. And that's a trust, trust yourself, right? And trust others. And then this other piece I've evolved to over the past couple of years is, I don't want to do business with anybody I can't be friends with. I don't want to be friends with anyone I can't do business with. Because if we're in business together and we're friends, there is so much more value to that. Oh, yeah. It is exponential. You're 10xing the whole entire experience. And I think that those two things are super, super important. And then the final one is, everyone's got to learn how to be good at sales, because you're selling yourself every single day. Even if you're not in business, you're either selling your problems or selling your success. And if you can learn, with AI and all these different other tools and systems and things going on in the world, if you know how to sell something, you are fine. You will always be able to pivot into something else.
I know it plays into your lifestyle, but what are some hobbies or interests that you guys have kind of outside of work a little bit?
We got dogs, food, travel, food. I mean, like the way I'll say it, the conferences, the way like it is so common. But a good example that Alexis posted on social media was I wanted to have a conversation with her about 6-month goal planning, right? Which sounds super boring to a lot of people. Are like, but what did I do? I literally text her or I said it to her. I was like, babe, let's go to your favorite restaurant and get you a lemon drop. And she was like, let's go. And she put on makeup and she's all excited to do it. And then as we're leaving, she's like, you're grabbing a notebook and a pen? I was like, yeah. She's like, should I bring mine? No, we're good. And we literally go sit at the bar and we get a drink and over the notebook. All right, let's talk about 6-month goals. Go. Personal goal, 6 months, physical goal, relationship goal, spiritual goal, financial goal. Like, let's do it. And she was like, are you going to go? I was like, yeah, you're going to go first. So I know what I have to support you on. And then I'm going to go after that. Yes.
Look how big I'm smiling right now. I'm like, yeah, this is the perfect date.
But like, that's our lifestyle, right? Like I got invited to go to a conference next week the other day. And the person's like, hey, we're speaking, we've got this and that. You want a ticket? And my answer 99% of the time is, great. Can she come too? And if they said no, I might turn around and say, it's not that important to me. Yeah. I just the other day, somebody invited me for a paid speaking event in Dubai. And I literally was like, can my partner come? And they were like, well, let's have the phone call first. I was like, okay, I'd like her to come with me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just our lifestyle is like we've blended in. It's not about balance. It's about blending it all in and making it work. And literally I'm on the phone call with a client or a prospect or something. And I'll get off the phone and she'll be like, who was that? What happened? And I do the same thing to her. How to go with that client? Maybe I can offer some value to that, or something else. That's just how our lifestyle is. It's a lifestyle that we are designing.
Yeah, he'll get off a call or he'll even be on a call and I'll be like writing on a Post-it note. Like, here's, say this or like offer that. I like hobby wise, it's really going out and exploring the world through food, we live in Lodi. And so there's 90 wineries around. So we take the dogs, go to a winery, we work out. But really just on the way up here, I'm like, hey, let's listen to this podcast together. And then let's talk about it after. We started to read the Bible together. Like, let's do, what are the things that you want to get good at or better at? And how do we do this together? But it's really, we're just on a mission to get better every single day.
Your lifestyles now allow you to kind of travel. What's the best place you guys have gone or want to go to?
The best place together that we've been to? Yeah. I had a couple of friends run the Boston Marathon in April. And so I flew to New York and then we road trip from New York to Boston and hung out there for a couple days and just road tripping back. And we went... He was like, #Go Patriots. And we went to a cabin in the Catskills in New York. That was pretty cool. Have we done anything cool here on the West Coast?
Well, we've done San Clemente.
Oh, we did?
Where's your aunt's house?
No, that's Pacific Grove.
Oh,
nope.
Same thing to an East Coast.
We went to Big Sur. Yeah, that was fun. Okay. Yeah, Big Sur's awesome. Big Sur is great. So, but we have Greece on the goal list for next year. For Easter, for 3 to 4 weeks.
Greece is, oh my gosh, that's a dream.
Yeah, that's what we're working towards. But hey, Dubai, if I get to go to Dubai, I'm not mad at that.
What are both of your guys' goals over the next year, over the next few years? Over the next
few years, my goals, I think really with this whole Brand New You is to build a women's community. I think in having people watch my own journey, I've had a ton of women reach out to me, whether it is to build their brand or just inquire about my mindset or my activities that I do day to day to get me to where I am, or how did I get so confident to live in so much uncertainty? And I really think that's the end goal in my journey is to build and empower women to go after the life that they truly want, whether that's through coaching or podcasting. I feel like all of that will come to fruition, but the end goal is really to help women like embody the life they want and feel more confident. And I feel I'm starting to do that every day, like through building their own brand and like getting them more comfortable in front of a camera, or like, or just sharing who they are online, showing up consistently. Like that's a huge thing. And so I think the end goal is to really just start a movement with women. Yeah.
I think I'm on my end, I talk to so many people and spend so much time with others. For a long time now, I've had this pulse of like the adoption of what's going on in the world. Like I bought my first Bitcoin in 2009 when it was like first coming out. No, I did not keep it. I've used it over the years, but like I think about that. Like I bought my first Bitcoin in 2009. I actually bought a house with it. It was kind of funny. And then over time, like AI started to become a thing for me in like 2014, 2015. And then people started talking about it, fast forward, started talking about it, now it's becoming a thing. I built my Press Forward brand in 2019. So I'm always feeling like I'm a little bit ahead of like what's the trends that people, and that's allows me to pay attention to like what's coming next. And I think one of the things in my own little personal goals is, you know, we had this evolution of people leaving the 9 to 5, and now you had this word entrepreneur becomes a thing, and now you have small business owners and entrepreneurial things. And now I think with everything coming up, you know, we've got self-driving cars and ChatGPT and all these new things that are just going to roll out. I think the world of becoming a, you know, I wouldn't call it passive income, but multi-income, you know, human that probably has lots of income streams coming in from lots of different ways and not working a 50 or 60 hour week to do so is going to be the new thing. So that requires a whole bunch of different systems for people and frameworks to think about, like, how do you take what used to be your 40-hour work week of you just doing the same thing over and over again in that industry? How do you learn how to diversify that? And I think that's something I'm really passionate about, because now people can care more so about like how they work and where they work and the things that they do it through, versus like, this is the highest paying thing that I can get that I can support my family. And so a big piece of my coaching is a big piece of that. And then we run a bunch of other events throughout the year to kind of insulate some of those systems, because as much as all of that is becoming a thing, I think there's still like this coming back to like soft skills, like the more and more AI stuff that happens. Empathy is going to become a bigger thing, be consciousness, being mindful of others, and we're going to value time a lot differently.
AI is, you know, it's blowing up right now. What impacts are you seeing in your business? Because you're staying ahead of the trends. So like, what are you seeing in terms of AI? Like, what are you guys utilizing?
Yeah, this is a great question, because so before I was a coach, you know, I was a technical person for a bunch of years, and I've got hands-on experience with using generative AI back in 2016. Like basically what ChatGPT can do now, we were using it inside small companies back then. Now it's just publicly available. But the path is pretty clear. The path has been mapped out fully, and basically what we are going to experience is equivalent change to the Industrial Revolution. And what's going to happen is, as soon as next year, we will have the term copilots will become the thing, where ChatGPT is kind of a copilot right now. It can't do the thing that we need it to. It's got the intelligence of like a 10th or 12th grader in high school, which means sometimes it lies, sometimes it hallucinates, sometimes it forgets what's really going on. But it can do those things. So next is going to come the copilot. That's going to be next year. Pretty regularly, people are going to start to be able to operate with a copilot next to them. Help me with my marketing. Help me with my math, help me with my finances, help me with this. About 12 to 18 months after that is going to come this next inception point, where it's going to be accepted that the team of people in the group is going to be able to use the same person. So now you have one at a table of 5 leaders. One of the leaders will then be an accepted AI that will have an opinion over that thing. Then shortly after that, we'll move into autonomous, which will be when fully self-driving cars are driving on their own, picking people up in an Uber, but are doing things without being told to them. And then we have this inflection point about 2030 where we then have self-learning AI coming into play, where you don't need to tell it what to do, and it will learn on its own.
Create schedules for you.
Right.
Just
right. This is what you should be doing.
This is your activities that you've been doing. This is what we recommend.
You want to have a 6-pack abs? Here's the workout routine. Here's what you eat. Here's the supplements to take to get you there. Here's how much sleep that you should get. Right. And I'm really focused in this area because I think about how great it is. I think fundamentally AI will make us all better humans. There's a little bit of a topsy-turvy road to get us there, but it evens the playing field for so many people who didn't get, I mean, like if you could only get the information at Harvard or Yale or Stanford because you could afford the money to go there, and now 75% of that information is available through a ChatGPT to people in underserved communities, that is an amazing thing for people to get access to. But for the people who choose to avoid that is going to happen, those people are in for a rude awakening.
What I like to ask people on the podcast, so visionaries they're known for being resilient, optimistic, creative, risk takers, inspirational. Which one or a few of those traits would you attribute to yourself and why?
I would say resilience, inspirational, and creative is how I would identify myself. If someone would say that, oh, Alexis, you're a risk taker, I'd be like, there's no way that I am. But I look back at everything I've overcome and all the split decisions that I've made that I totally am. But it's funny how I don't automatically identify with that. But I think the resilience, the being able to get knocked down and then come back stronger and not let that defeat you. I've had many moments in my life where I have told myself I could either let this make me or break me. And I've never chose the break me piece. And so I think resilience is a huge factor to go after what it is that you truly want. And if you want to build a big, big life for yourself and others. And I think inspiration is just giving someone else hope. And I hope to live my life in a way that will inspire others to take action in theirs. And I've multiple times people have DM'd me from years ago, like, I quit this because of you, or I decided to go to the gym because I saw you post this, or all of that just makes me so happy because you're halfway across the country. I haven't talked to you in 7 years, but because you see me showing up, that you decided to make a change, like that's the best thing in the world. And that's really what I want to do, is just at the end of the day, inspire others to take action in their lives.
For me, I think it's the resilience. And because of that, I've also become the risk taker for sure. And I built that mechanism, I think, because my grandparents were all immigrants and they have this kind of salt of the earth immigrant kind of mentality of, and they always said to me when I was a little kid, you can be anything that you want to be, which is like really good marketing to immigrants, right? Come to our country and you can be whatever you want to be, right? But they kept on saying it to me over and over again. They never said I had to play by the rules. They never said I had to learn from others. They never said a bunch of other stuff they probably should have said. But they always instilled in me that like you can be anything you want to be. And that's really, I took it to heart. There was something that it was, kind of instituted in me at a developmental piece of my age where it just kind of stuck. And I go back to my point about the risk taking of like really like learning how to trust yourself and learning how to build trust with others. You don't feel like you're taking risks, right? I say to a lot of people that I work with and I coach, before you have an emotional problem, you probably have a math problem. And I've yet to find a real thing that seems emotional in the moment that can't be distilled down to some kind of mathematical equation that can then be addressed appropriately, which then comes into a trust. Numbers are finite and they come from trusted sources. And so, you could have somebody who keeps on going out on bad dates and keeps on getting their heart broken over and over again, and they have this emotional problem. But if you sit there and map out who their ideal relationship is and what that relationship is like, and then go, where do I find those people? And then,
where have you been going?
and then put that person there, they will increase the likelihood of finding the person that they, will match up with. I went through a bunch of weird things in my own life, in relationships for years. And I finally got to a point where I adopted that before I have an emotional problem, I have a math problem, did the math. And then I said, what's the one thing that I think that I really need that I never pay attention to when I want a woman? And I got to a place of wanting to find kindness and joy in my life. Men do not look for kindness and joy. We look for hips and ass. And when I sought out, put the math equation together and said I wanted kindness and joy, it led me to this woman. And that's why we're here today.
Ta-da!
So where can people find you guys online, connect with you, and do you guys have any closing remarks?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Alexis Papa. Facebook is just my full name, Alexis Papachristos. Closing remarks is get really clear on the thing that you want to accomplish in life and define what type of person would accomplish those things. Find somebody who has already accomplished that thing and emulate what they're doing. And don't be afraid to stay authentic to yourself no matter what anyone else says, because there will always be outside chatter and everybody will always have an opinion on what you should be doing.
Do me a solid and Google me, NEALCONLON. That will help my SEO. But that way, depending on which social media channel they have, I'm on all of them. They're all listed there. And my closing thought is this, if you listening to this feel even just a little bit better, your shoulders rolled back just a little bit further in this conversation because of listening to the three of us talk, reach out to us. I guarantee you we will continue that feeling happening for you in some way, shape, or form. And we're so committed to helping other people with their businesses, with their relationships, with just kind of the understanding of like how hard sometimes it is when you choose these more intentional lifestyles. But we'd love to talk to anybody and everybody who likes that conversation.
Yep. Reach out. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.